So, then good evening, everybody.
So, guten Abend allerseits.
Let us open with prayer.
Lasst uns mit Gebet anfangen.
Dear Father in heaven,
Lieber Vater im Himmel,
thank you for this privilege to come before you again.
danke für das Vorrecht, ein weiteres Mal vor dir zu erscheinen.
Thank you that we can open your sacred word.
Und danke, dass wir dein heiliges Wort aufschlagen können.
Lord, please grant us your spirit,
Herr, bitte gewähre uns deinen Geist,
that we would not in our human imperfections would pervert your word,
dass wir in unsere menschlichen Unzulänglichkeiten dein Wort nicht verdrehen würden,
but that we would come and be sitting at your feet in a humble spirit,
sondern dass wir in demütigen Geist zu deinen Füßen sitzen können,
and that we can learn of the great I am,
dass wir von der großen Ich Bin lernen können,
and that your truth can sanctify us and convict us of our sins.
sodass dein Wort uns reinigen kann und uns überführen von unseren Sünden.
Lord, please help us to realize that these things are not just a game,
So, Herr, hilft uns zu verstehen, dass diese Sachen nicht ein Spiel sind,
but that these are earnest and everlasting truths,
sondern dass die ernsthaft sind, dass die ewige Wahrheiten sind,
and that they will all determine our destiny forever.
und dass die unsere Schicksale aufs ewig bestimmen werden.
Therefore, please come and help us to understand your word,
So deswegen komme und hilfe uns, dein Wort zu verstehen.
and forgive us our blindness, and please open our eyes,
So vergebe uns unseren Blindheit und öffne uns die Augen.
and please come and abide with your presence.
Und bitte komme und weile mit deiner Gegenwart.
And we ask and pray in Jesus' name.
Und wir bitten und beten in Jesu Namen.
Amen.
Amen.
Okay, so we want to continue with our study of the book of Esther,
So, wir wollen fortsetzen mit unserem Studium über das Buch Esther.
and let us turn there again.
So, lass uns wieder dahin.
And yesterday we stopped in chapter 4,
Und gestern haben wir in Kapitel 4 aufgehört
and we stopped in verse 8.
und wir haben in Vers 8 aufgehört.
So let us read verse 8 again,
So, lass uns Vers 8 nochmal lesen,
or maybe 7 and 8.
sogar die Verse 7 und 8.
This is when Hatak, Esther's chamberlain, came to Mordecai,
Es ist Hatak, die Kämmerer von Esther, zu Mordecai kam.
and he was sitting there in sackcloth and ashes, right?
Mordecai saß da in Sacktuch und Asche.
It says, and Mordecai told him of all that had happened unto him, and of the sum of the money that Haman had promised to pay to the king's treasuries for the Jews, to destroy them. Also he gave him the copy of the writing of the decree that was given at Shushan to destroy them, to show it unto Esther, and to declare it unto her, and to charge her that she should go in unto the king, to make supplication unto him, and to make request before him for her people. Okay, so we saw yesterday that right here Haman made this death decree.
So, wir haben gestern gesehen, dass Haman gerade an diesem Punkt diesen Todesdekret gemacht hat,
He deceived Ahasuerus,
wo Ahasuerus verführte.
and yeah, basically Ahasuerus signed the decree.
Und
Okay,
Ahasuerus hat dieses Dekret unterschrieben.
so he deceived him just like he deceived him there, right?
So, er hat ihn verführt, genauso wie er hier verführt hat.
Just like Darius got deceived in signing the Sunday law in the
Genauso
first
wie
place.
Darius in erster Linie verführt würde, den Sonntagsgesetz zu unterschreiben.
Okay, and then we saw this lot casting here, right?
Und dann
Bei
haben wir
Haman.
gesehen, dass durch Haman diese Los hier geworfen wird.
And this was this counterfeit lot casting. He blamed God's people to be the scapegoat. Right?
Das war diese falsche Loswerfung. Er hat Gottes Volk beschuldigt und das sie zur Sündenbock gemacht.
And then this death decree was distributed hastily in the whole kingdom.
Und dieses Todesdekret wurde ins ganze Königreich auf eilige Weise verbreitet.
And we saw the same here in the first Sunday law. Daniel asked, why is the decree so hasty from the king?
Und
Right?
wir haben das auch im ersten Sonntagsgesetz gesehen, an selbe Stelle. dass Daniel fragte, warum ist das Dekret von der König so eilig?
Okay. And then what did Daniel do?
Und was tat Daniel?
He asked for time,
Er
right?
bat um Zeit,
In order then to come before the king. Okay.
dass er dann vor den König kommen konnte.
Yes.
Amen.
And in Daniel chapter 1, this time would be the 10 days, right?
In Daniel Kapitel 1, diese Zeit wäre die 10 Tage.
Yes. And at the end of it, they would appear before the king.
Und am Ende davon würden sie vor dem König erscheinen.
And they're found how much better?
Und sie sind wie viele Mal besser befunden worden?
10 times.
Das
Okay.
10-fache.
Alright, so therefore also same pattern here, okay?
So, deswegen auch an dieser Stelle denselben Muster nach.
It's now the point where the decree is now hastily distributed, okay?
Das ist der Punkt, wo der Dekret hastig oder auf eilige Weise verbreitet würde.
And Mordecai tells now Esther, now's the time, you must go before the king, okay?
Mordecai sagte Esther, jetzt ist die Zeit, wo du vor den König gehen musst.
Because he would be equating to Daniel, he was going through this experience already.
Why is the decree so hasty?
Er wäre gleich wie Daniel, der bereits durch diese Erfahrung hindurchgeht.
Yes, yes. So, and here he knew he had to ask for time and the Lord eventually delivered him, okay?
Und hier wusste er, dass er um Zeit bitten musste und letztendlich der Herr befreite ihn,
Okay, so when he then appeared before the king.
als er dann vor dem König erschien.
So therefore he just tells Esther, you must do likewise, okay?
So, dann sagt Mordecai dem Esther, dass sie auf gleiche Weise jetzt tun muss.
Yes.
Amen.
Let us now continue in verse 9.
So, lass uns jetzt in Vers 9 weiterlesen.
And Hathach came and told Esther the words of Mordecai. Again Esther spake unto Hathach and gave him commandment unto Mordecai. All the king's servants and the people of the king's provinces do know that whosoever, whether man or woman, shall come unto the king into the inner court, who is not called, there is one law of his to put him to death, except such to whom the king shall hold out the golden scepter, that he may live. But I have not been called to come in unto the king these 30 days. Okay, so Esther tries to find an excuse here, right?
So, Esther versuchte an dieser Stelle eine Ausrede zu finden.
What does she say?
Was sagt sie?
She has not been called for these 30 days,
Sie
right?
hat diese 30 Tage lang ist sie nicht gerufen worden.
Okay, so I mean the only 30 days that comes in my mind now that would basically join to this here,
Also
okay?
die einzige 3 Tage, die
30.
die einzige 30 Tage, die mir in die Gesinnung hier kommt, die hier passen wird,
It's in Daniel chapter 6.
das ist in Daniel Kapitel 6.
So let us go there.
Gehen wir dahin, Daniel 6.
Let us read verse 6 to 7.
Wir lesen die Versen 6 und 7.
And in the German it's either +1 or -1 verse, I can't remember.
In das deutsche Bibel ist es entweder ein Vers mehr oder weniger. Ich erinnere mich nicht.
Okay, so verse 6
Vers 6.
says, Then these presidents and princes assembled together to the king, and said thus unto him, King Darius, live forever. All the presidents of the kingdom, the governors and the princes, the counselors and the captains, have consulted together to establish a royal statute, and to make a firm decree that whosoever shall ask a petition of any god or man for 30 days, saith thee, O king, he shall be cast into the den of lions. How many days?
So, wie viele Tage?
30 days.
30.
So here is this decree signed, right?
So, hier ist dieses Dekret unterschrieben.
30 days, right?
30 Tage.
Esther comes now here, says these 30 days I haven't been called.
Und
Okay.
Esther kommt hier an und sagt, diese 30 Tage lang bin ich nicht gerufen worden.
Okay. So that's at least most likely the true connection. But if somebody else has a better explanation, he can bring it forth. Okay.
Das ist wahrscheinlich der am wahrscheinlichsten Verbindung. Und wenn jemand eine bessere Idee hat, dann kann er das wohl bringen.
I think it's just a fractal of, or Daniel 12 is just a fractal of it, because you see this the same, exactly the same principle, just in a smaller fractal, because
Yes.
when Yeah. Because when the 30 days would bring you up to the point where he gets delivered up before the king.
I mean,
which is
yeah,
1260,
30 and then 1260.
which is
yeah,
1290.
right.
Also du hast 30 Tage hier und dann die 1260 in diese Zeit und gemeinsam wäre das dann der 1290.
Because Brother Mark showed us right here this 1290 in Daniel 12.
Yes.
Yeah, right?
Bruder Mark hat uns diese 1290 in Daniel 12 hier gezeigt.
Because the little place where you put the death is also 1260, so you're
Yes.
30 and just
Would be, yes, most likely. Okay.
yes.
Good. So if you remember, right, 30 and 1260 here.
So, wenn ihr daran erinnert, 30 und 1260 am Ende.
See blank faces. Okay. You need to watch these
I will cover it
classes
again
for yourself.
sometime.
Good. So let us go back to Esther chapter 4.
Gehen wir zurück zu Esther Kapitel 4.
So she says she hasn't been called for these 30 days,
Sie sagt, dass diese 30 Tage lang nicht gerufen wurde.
and unless the king calls her to come, she would be put to death. Okay.
Es sei denn, dass der König sie ruft, dass sie komme, würde sie zum Tode übergeben.
If he would not pardon her.
Und
Okay.
wenn er sie nicht begnadigen würde.
Okay. So now let us continue verse 12.
So, jetzt Vers 12.
And they told to Mordecai Esther's words. Then Mordecai commanded to answer Esther, think not with thyself that thou shalt escape in the king's house more than all the Jews. For if thou altogether holdest thy peace at this time, then shall there an enlargement and deliverance arise to the Jews from another place. But thou and thy father's house shall be destroyed, and who knoweth whether thou art come to the kingdom for such a time as this. Okay, Mordecai tells her plainly, okay,
So, Mordecai sagt sie ganz klar,
this is now God's will for you. Okay?
das hier ist Gottes Wille für dich.
You must now appear before God, before the king, sorry.
Du musst jetzt vor dem König erscheinen.
Okay, and how is he so sure?
Und warum ist er so sicher?
So how does he know?
So, woher weiß er das?
Yeah, because of the first Sunday law, right?
Wegen dem ersten Sonntagsgesetz.
He went through this here. Okay.
Er ist hier hindurchgegangen.
So Mordecai is Daniel,
Wir
right?
haben gesehen, dass Mordecai ist gleich Daniel.
So he experienced this experience. Okay?
Er hat diese Erfahrung eben durchlebt.
And obviously also from the scriptures. Okay.
Und auch natürlich von den Schriften her.
Because we read yesterday in Joel. Let us go to Joel.
Denn wir haben gestern in das Buch Joel gelesen, gehen wir jetzt dahin.
Joel chapter 2 again.
Joel Kapitel 2.
Verse 1.
Und Vers 1.
It says, blow ye the trumpet in Zion, and sound an alarm in my holy mountain. Let all the inhabitants of the land tremble, for the day of the Lord cometh, for it is nigh at hand. So where are we on the line?
So, wo sind wir auf der Linie?
Beginning of the sixth plague, right?
Beginn der 6. Plage.
So here, but Joel is here this first Sunday law, right?
So, hier in Joel ist in diesem ersten Sonntagsgesetz.
Okay, but same pattern, okay?
Dasselbe Muster, genau.
So, but why is he now blowing the trumpet?
Aber warum stößt er jetzt in die Posaune?
The day of the Lord is nigh at hand.
Der Tag des Herrn steht bevor.
How does he know this?
Und woher weiß er das?
Yes, he saw the sign,
Er
right?
hat den Zeichen erkannt.
So what is the sign again?
Und was ist das Zeichen wieder?
Keep your finger here, let us go to Luke 21.
Also den Platz hier geht zu Lukas 21.
Luke 21, verse 20.
Vers 21 und Vers 20.
It says, when ye shall see Jerusalem compassed with armies, then know that the desolation thereof is nigh. Okay, so when is the day of the Lord nigh at hand?
So, wann ist der Tag des Herrn kurz bevorstehend?
Yeah, when Jerusalem is compassed with armies,
wenn
right?
Jerusalem mit Armeen umgeben ist.
Okay, so this is the sign you must see.
Das
Okay?
ist der Zeichen, die du sehen musst.
The king of the north now surrounding God's people.
König
Okay?
des Nordens, der Gottes Volk umzingelt.
And he does so by the death decree, okay?
Und er tut das durch den Todesdekret.
Okay, so therefore Mordecai here, he saw the death decree, okay?
Und deswegen Mordecai hier hat den Todesdekret gesehen.
That's the king of the north now besieging Jerusalem,
Das
okay?
ist der König des Nordens, der Jerusalem belagert,
Okay, in order to blot them out.
um
Okay,
sie auszutilgen.
okay. So therefore, let us go back to Joel.
Also deswegen gehen wir jetzt zurück zu Joel.
Chapter 2,
Kapitel 2,
verses 12 to 13.
die Verse 12 und 13.
It says, therefore, wherefore.
Deswegen, also weswegen?
Yeah, because the day of the Lord is nigh, right?
Weil der Tag des Herrn bevorsteht.
Therefore also now, saith the Lord, turn ye even to me with all your heart, and with fasting, and with weeping, and with mourning. And rend your heart and not your garments, and turn unto the Lord your God, for he is gracious and merciful, slow to anger, and of great kindness, and repenteth him of the evil. So what is Joel promising?
So, was verheißt Joel hier?
Exactly, okay?
Wenn sie das Werk tun, würden sie angenommen.
Verschont.
Ach, verschont.
So therefore, yeah, the promise is given, if you humble yourself, the Lord will turn it around, right?
Die Verheißung wird gegeben, dass wenn du dich demütigst, der Herr wird das wenden.
And he repent him of the evil, okay?
Und er wird sich das Böses reuen.
Okay, but the evil, how does the evil come? Or through whom?
Böse, wie kommt das oder durch wen?
Let's go to Jeremiah 4.
Gehen wir zu Jeremia, Kapitel 4.
Beginning in verse 5.
Fangen wir in Vers 5 an.
Jeremiah 4 verse 5.
Jeremia 4 und Vers 5.
It says, declare ye in Judah and publish in Jerusalem and say, blow ye the trumpet in the land. Cry, gather together and say, assemble yourselves and let us go into the defenced cities. So what is this message?
So, was ist diese Botschaft?
Same message as Joel, right?
Selbe Botschaft wie in Joel.
Blow the trumpet,
Stößt in die Posaune,
assemble yourselves together,
sammle euch zusammen
go into the defenced
und
cities.
geht in den belagerten Städten.
And the defenced cities are
Die belagerten Städten sind was?
befestigten Städten, nicht belagerten Städten.
Ah, befestigten Städten, danke.
Yeah, it's the refuge city, right?
Das sind die Zufluchtsstätten.
This is where you need to flee to.
Dahin musst du flüchten.
Why?
Warum?
Verse 6.
Vers 6.
Set up the standard toward Zion. Retire, stay not, for I will bring evil from the north and a great destruction. So what comes from the north?
Was kommt von dem Norden her?
Yeah, evil it says, right?
Ein Böses, sagt
But
es.
if you humble yourself before God, what does Joel say?
Aber wenn du dich vor Gott demütigst, was sagt Joel?
Remove fire.
Yeah, he will repent himself of the evil, right?
Wird sich dieses Böses reuen, er wird es wenden.
So therefore he will remove this northern army from off you.
So
Okay.
deswegen wird er diese Nordarmee von dir entfernen.
Okay. Let us continue verse 7.
Vers 7.
The lion is come up from his thicket, and the destroyer of the Gentiles is on his way. He's gone forth from his place to make thy land desolate, and thy city shall be laid waste, without an inhabitant. For this gird you with sackcloth, lament and howl, for the fierce anger of the Lord is not turned back from us. So what is he also saying, like Joel?
So was sagt er hier auch noch, auch wie Joel?
Yes, exactly.
Zieh Sacktuch an und heule und klage.
So therefore Mordecai, he is obedient to the work that is required in this time here, right?
Deswegen Mordecai, der ist gehorsam zu das Werk, was in dieser Zeit verlangt wird.
He recognizes the sign, he puts on sackcloth and ashes. Right?
Er kennt den Zeichen und tut Sacktuch und Asche an.
Okay. Then it also says here in verse 14,
Dann sagt es auch hier in Vers 14.
O Jerusalem, wash thine heart from wickedness, that thou mayest be saved. How long shall thy vain thoughts lodge within thee? So what is the wickedness that you must get rid of?
So, was ist das Bosheit, die du loswerden musst?
Thoughts
Oh.
according to that book.
Exactly, yeah, the vain thoughts, okay?
Diese nichtige Gedanken, die nicht gemäß sein Wort sind.
So, because all our thoughts are wicked, which are not according to God's word, right?
All unsere Gedanken, die nicht gemäß Gottes Wort sind, sind böse.
Okay. So, and they will result in wicked deeds.
Und
Okay.
sie werden zu böse Taten führen.
Okay. Alright, so now let us go back to Esther.
Gehen wir jetzt zurück zu Esther.
So Esther chapter 4.
Esther 4.
Verse 13, right?
Vers 13
Because it says here,
sagt,
Then Mordecai commanded to answer Esther, Think not with thyself that thou shalt escape in the king's house more than all the Jews. Why is he saying this to Esther?
warum sagt das zu Esther?
No one shall escape.
Exactly, okay?
Niemand wird entkommen.
The book of Joel, it says, None shall escape,
Das
right?
Buch Joel sagt, keine wird entkommen.
Those that don't do the work for this time will not escape. Okay?
Diejenigen, die das Werk für diese Zeit nicht tun, werden nicht entkommen.
Who alone gets spared by the 5 men with the slaughter weapons?
So, wer nur wird verschont von den 5 Männern mit den Schlachterwaffen?
Little children, maidens,
Kleine Kinder, kleine Mädchen,
old men?
alte Männer?
No. Right?
Nein,
Only those with the
nur diejenigen,
seal of God.
die
Okay?
den Siegel Gottes haben.
Okay. Because Satan doesn't care who you are, he will destroy you. Okay.
Satan schert sich nicht, wer du bist, er wird dich töten.
Okay. So now verse 14 again.
Vers 14.
For if thou altogether holdest thy peace at this time, then shall their enlargement and deliverance arise to the Jews from another place. But thou and thy father's house shall be destroyed, and who knoweth whether thou art come to the kingdom for such a time as this. So he's saying, you are come to the kingdom for such a time as this.
Er
Right?
sagt, du bist zum Königreich gekommen für gerade solch eine Zeit wie diese.
So let us go now to John chapter 12.
Gehen wir jetzt zu Johannes Kapitel 12.
Verses 23 to 27.
Die Verse 23 bis 27.
It says, And Jesus answered them, saying, The hour is come, that the Son of Man should be glorified. When was he glorified?
Wann ist er verherrlicht worden?
Cross, right?
Am Kreuz.
Okay. So he's now to go to the cross.
Er sollte jetzt zum Kreuz gehen.
And therefore he says now in verse 24,
Deswegen sagt er jetzt in Vers 24,
Verily, verily, I say unto you, except the corn of wheat fall into the ground and die, it abideth alone. But if it die, it bringeth forth much fruit. Right? So he speaks about his death.
er spricht über seinen Tod.
Verse 25.
25.
He that loveth his life shall lose it, and he that hateth his life in this world shall keep it unto life eternal. If any man serve me, let him follow me, and where I am, there shall also my servant be. If any man serve me, him will my Father honor. So if you serve Christ, what must you do?
Also wenn du Christus dienst, was musst du tun?
Follow him.
Du musst
Right?
ihm folgen.
And where is he now to go?
Und wo geht er jetzt hin?
To the cross.
Zum
Right?
Kreuz.
Therefore he says, if you love your life, you will lose it.
Deswegen
Okay?
sagt er, wenn du dein Leben liebst, wirst du sie verlieren.
But if you give it up for him, you will get eternal life.
Und wenn du es seineswegen aufgibst, wirst du ewiges Leben erhalten.
So it's right here when death decree is made and you're now threatened with death,
Das
right?
ist gerade hier, wo der Todesdekret gemacht ist und du mit dem Tod bedroht wirst.
Yes. Now the threat of death is real for you.
Jetzt, die Bedrohung des Todes ist für dich real geworden.
Verse 27.
Vers 27.
Now is my soul troubled, and what shall I say? Father, save me from this hour. But for this cause came I unto this hour. Right? So for what purpose is Christ come?
So, zu welchem Zweck ist Christus gekommen?
Why did he come?
For this very purpose.
For this very purpose, right?
Gerade für diesen Grund oder diese,
To give up his life.
sein Leben aufzugeben.
Therefore, brethren, we are called to give up our lives at a certain time. Okay?
Liebe Geschwister, wir sind berufen worden, unser Leben an einem bestimmten Punkt aufzugeben.
For Christ.
Für Christus,
For his truth.
für seine Wahrheit.
Nobody can get around it. Okay?
Und keiner wird dies umgehen können.
That's the cross. Okay?
Das ist eben das Kreuz.
So either you will die as martyr,
So, entweder wirst du sterben als Märtyrer,
or the Lord will deliver you, and you will not die as martyr, but you must have made the decision to make an end with your old life. Okay?
oder der Herr wird dich befreien. Du wirst nicht als Märtyrer sterben, aber du musst dennoch die Entscheidung bereits gemacht haben, mit deinem alten Leben Schluss gemacht zu haben.
Okay. But what is the promise?
Aber was ist die
So
Verheißung?
in verse 26 again.
Vers 26 nochmal.
Says, if any man serve me, let him follow me. And where I am, there shall also my servant be. If any man serve me, him will my Father honor. So if you go to the cross, what will the Father do to you?
Also wenn du zum Kreuz gehst, was wird der Vater mit dir tun?
He will honor you.
Er wird
Right?
dich ehren.
And we saw this with all the prophets, right? Set them over the kingdom.
Und wir haben das mit all den Propheten gesehen. Er hat sie über den Königreich gestellt.
Okay. But first the cross, then the
Zuerst
crown.
das Kreuz und danach die Krone.
Okay. Alright. And also last point here in verse 27.
Und letzter Punkt, Vers 27.
It says, now is my soul troubled. So what time did he enter into?
So, in welche Zeit ist er diesgemäß hineingegangen?
Yeah, time of trouble, right?
Zeit des Trübsals.
Right here, when now the time of peace ends again and the great tribulation begins, right?
Also gerade hier, wo die Zeit des Friedens ein Ende hat und die große Trübsal wieder anfängt.
Okay. So this is the Christian lot. Okay.
Das hier ist der Christ sein Los.
If you want to be a Christian, you must be like Christ.
Wenn
Okay.
du ein Christ sein möchtest, musst du wie Christus sein.
And
werden.
Christ, he went to the cross and he gave up his life for
Christus
others.
ging zum Kreuz und hat sein Leben für anderen aufgegeben.
So Christianity is not a fun club. Okay.
So, das Christentum ist kein Club des Spaßes.
It's not something where you have a nice coffee time together. Okay.
Es ist kein Sozialtreffen, so kein Kaffeetreffen.
It's the greatest warfare that has ever been waged on this planet. Okay.
Es ist die größte Kriegsführung, die je auf diesem Planeten geführt worden ist.
So the Ukraine war at the moment is nothing compared to this war that goes on between Christ and Satan. Okay.
Also der Ukraine-Krieg, der gerade stattfindet, ist nichts gegen den Krieg, der zwischen Christus und Satan stattfindet.
And between Christ's seed and Satan's seed.
Zwischen Christi Same und Satans Same.
Okay. So let us go now to Hebrews chapter 10.
Gehen wir jetzt zu Hebräer, Kapitel 10.
Because Mordecai said, you have been called for such a time as this. Right?
Mordecai hat gesagt, du bist gerade für solch eine Zeit wie diese gerufen.
This is now God's will for you.
Das ist jetzt Gottes Wille für dich.
So verse 35 to 39.
Hebräer 10, Verse 35 bis 39.
It says, cast not away therefore your confidence, which hath great recompense of reward. For ye have need of patience, that after ye have done the will of God, ye might receive the promise. So when do you receive the promise?
Wann erhältst du die Verheißung?
You've done the will of God.
Yes, after you've done the will of God, right?
Nachdem du die Wille Gottes getan hast.
And we saw the will of God when you come to this time is to give up your life,
Wir
right?
haben gesehen, dass die Wille Gottes ist, wenn du zu dieser Zeit ankommst, ist dein Leben aufzugeben.
Okay. And then you receive the promise.
Dann erhältst du die Verheißung.
And what do you need to have?
Und was musst du haben?
Patience,
Du
right?
musst Geduld haben.
It's the patience of the
Das ist die Geduld der
saints, right?
Heiligen.
Those that keep the commandments of God and have the faith of Jesus, right?
Diejenigen, die Gebote Gottes halten und das Glaube Jesu haben.
So keep your finger here.
Halte den Platz hier.
Let us go to Luke 21.
Gehen wir zu Lukas 21.
Beginning in verse 12.
Fangen in Vers 12 an.
And that's why Sister White, she said, she saw this chasm vision, yes?
Und deswegen Ellen White, sie hat diese Vision des Kluftes-Visions gesehen.
And at every change, some were left behind, yes?
Und an jeder Veränderung auf dem Weg entlang sind einige zurückgelassen worden.
And who were left behind?
Und wer ist es, der zurückgelassen worden ist?
Those that didn't get accustomed to hardships, it says, right?
Also diejenigen, die nicht an schwierige Zeiten gewohnt waren.
So when the way goes narrower and narrower,
Also
Okay.
wenn der Weg schmaler und schmaler wird,
and you must give up more and more of your possessions and earthly ties, right?
und du musst mehr und mehr von deinem Besitz und irdische Verbindungen aufgeben müssen.
Then obviously it's more difficult, right?
Und natürlich ist das schwieriger.
Okay, so therefore we need to make sure that we keep up.
Deswegen müssen wir sicherstellen, dass wir Schritt halten.
Okay, now let us go to Luke 21, verse 12.
Lukas 21, Vers 12.
And I don't know about you, but I noticed, how much I'm still attached to this world. It's like
Ich weiß
terrible.
nicht, wie es mit ihr seid, aber ich weiß mit mir selbst, wie sehr ich noch an dieser Welt verbunden bin.
Okay, but let us continue, verse 12.
Lesen wir jetzt Vers 12.
It says, "But before all these, they shall lay their hands on you and persecute you, delivering you up to the synagogues and into prisons, being brought before kings and rulers for my name's sake." So where are we on the line?
Wo befinden wir uns auf der Linie?
Right.
Beginn der 6. Plage.
So you're delivered up and now falsely accused, right?
Jetzt ausgeliefert und falsch angeklagt wird.
Verse 13.
Vers 13.
"And it shall turn to you for a testimony. Settle therefore in your heart not to meditate before what ye shall answer. For I will give you a mouth and wisdom which all your adversaries shall not be able to gainsay nor resist. And ye shall be betrayed both by parents and brethren and kinsfolks and friends. And some of you shall they cause to be put to death. And ye shall be hated of all men for my name's sake. But there shall not an hair of your head perish. In your patience possess ye your souls." So what must you have in this time here?
So, was musst du in dieser
When you're
Zeit
delivered
haben,
up.
wenn du ausgeliefert wirst?
Patience. right?
Geduld.
This is also what Hebrews says,
Das ist
right?
auch das, was wir in Hebräer gelesen haben.
You have need of patience.
Du benötigst Geduld zu
That
haben.
after you've done the will of God,
Dass nachdem du die Wille Gottes getan
you
hast,
might receive the promise.
dass du die Verheißung erhalten wirst.
Also let us go to Luke chapter 8.
Gehen wir auch zu Lukas Kapitel 8.
Beginning in verse 11.
Fangen wir in Vers 11 an.
It says, "Now the parable is this, the seed is the word of God." So it's the parable of the sower.
Das
Okay.
ist das Gleichnis der Seemann.
Now jump down to verse 15.
Jetzt Vers 15.
"But that on the good ground are they which an honest and good heart, having heard the word, keep it and bring forth fruit with patience."
bringen Frucht hervor mit Geduld.
So how do you bring forth fruit?
So, wie bringst du Frucht hervor?
Yeah, with patience, exactly.
Geduld.
So, right here is therefore this time of patience.
So, gerade hier ist diese Zeit des Gedulds.
But if you endure unto the end, the sickle will go in and harvest you, right?
Wenn du aushältst bis zum Ende, wird der Sichel hineingehen und dich ernten.
Okay. Now, let us go back to Hebrews 11.
Gehen wir zurück zu Hebräer 11.
Let's begin in verse 35 again.
Fangen wir in Vers 35 wieder an.
It says, cast not away therefore your confidence, which hath great recompense of reward. So why is he saying this now here?
Warum sagt er das jetzt hier?
To go through this trial.
Sorry?
They need to go through this.
Yeah, they need to go through this trial, and what are you tempted with?
So musst durch diese Test hindurchgehen und mit was wirst du versucht?
To draw back.
Yeah, to cast away your confidence, right?
Deine Zuversicht zu verwerfen,
To reject the message now.
dass du die
Okay.
Botschaft verwerfen würdest.
And what does Matthew 24 say?
Und was sagt Matthäus 24?
Many shall be
Viele werden
offended, right?
Anstoß nehmen
And will betray one another.
und werden
Okay.
einander verraten.
So, and therefore the admonition is now hold fast, right?
So deswegen die Warnung ist jetzt, haltet fest.
So verse 36.
Jetzt Vers 36.
For ye have need of patience, that after ye have done the will of God, ye might receive the promise. For yet a little while, and he that shall come will come and will not tarry. Right? So, you need to have patience, you must tarry. Right?
Du musst Geduld haben, du musst warten.
So, Brother Mark showed us here, this tarry. Right?
Der Mark hat uns gezeigt, dass hier diese Verzögerungszeit ist.
So, where do we have scripture for this?
Und wo haben wir eine Schrift dafür?
Acts 1.
Yeah, in Acts 1, for instance,
Das
right?
ist in Apostelgeschichte 1.
They had to tarry for 10 days before Pentecost, right?
Sie mussten 10 Tage lang warten, bis auf Pfingsten.
Kings,
Elijah, Elijah.
okay, Elijah and Elisha.
3
Das
times.
heute Könige 2, also Elia und Elisa,
Yes,
die dreimal mit warten.
yes. Okay, and just had another thought, but I forgot it now. Gethsemane, for instance, right?
Gethsemane zum Beispiel.
He told his disciples to tarry.
Hat seine Jüngern gesagt, dass sie hier warten sollen.
Okay, let us continue.
Lesen wir weiter.
Verse 38
Vers 38.
says, Now the just shall live by faith, but if any man draw back, my soul shall have no pleasure in him. But we are not of them who draw back unto perdition, but of them that believe to the saving of the soul. Okay? So, what is he bringing in here?
So, was bringt er hier hinein?
Habakkuk.
Yes, okay, he's bringing in justification by faith, right?
Er bringt Rechtfertigung durch Glaube hier
And he
hin.
says, if you exercise faith now in this test here, you will be saved.
Er sagt, wenn du Glaube in diesen Test ausübst, dann wirst du gerettet werden.
Because it says, he that endureth unto the end, he shall be
Und es sagt, derjenige, der
saved.
bis zum Ende ausharrt, der wird gerettet werden.
Okay. Alright. Now, let us go back to Esther.
So, lasst uns jetzt zum Buch Esther zurückgehen.
So therefore Mordecai basically tells her, okay, this is what you need to do now. Right?
Mordecai sagt sie im Grunde, das ist, was du jetzt tun
And
musst.
Esther is now tempted to draw back.
Und
Okay.
Esther ist in Versuchung, zurückzuziehen.
But we saw if she would draw back, she would draw back unto perdition.
Aber
Okay?
wir haben gesehen oder gelesen, dass wenn sie sich doch zurückziehen würde, sie wird sich zurückziehen bis aufs Verderben.
Because we saw that Mordecai said, okay, if you don't go and preach now, you will perish. Okay?
Und wir haben gelesen, dass Mordecai sagt, wenn du nicht gehst und predigst, du wirst vergehen.
Okay, now let us continue.
Dann lesen wir weiter.
Verse 15 to 17.
Die Verse 15 bis 17, Esther 4.
Says, Then Esther bade them return Mordecai this answer. Go, gather together all the Jews that are present in Shushan, and fast ye for me, and neither eat nor drink 3 days, night or day. I also and my maidens will fast likewise, and so will I go in unto the king, which is not according to the law. And if I perish, I perish. So Mordecai went his way, and did according to all that Esther had commanded him. So, what is she telling here?
So, was sagt sie jetzt hier?
Gather together, everybody, right?
Versammelt allen zusammen.
So, let's go to Joel again.
Gehen wir wieder zum Buch Joel.
Joel chapter 1.
Joel Kapitel 1.
And then verse 13 to 14.
Verse 13 und 14.
It says, Gird yourselves and lament, ye priests, howl ye ministers of the altar, come, lie all night in sackcloth, ye ministers of my God. For the meat offering and the drink offering is withholden from the house of your God. Sanctify ye a fast, call a solemn assembly, gather the elders and all the inhabitants of the land into the house of the Lord your God, and cry unto the Lord. So, what is the command?
Was ist das Befehl?
Yeah, everybody is to gather together, right?
Jeder soll sich zusammenkommen.
Okay, so gather the elders and all the inhabitants of the land, right?
Die Ältesten und alle Einwohner des Landes.
Okay, so let us go back to Esther.
Gehen wir zurück zu Esther.
And they were to weep and mourn and howl, right?
Sie sollten weinen und klagen und heulen
And fasting.
und fasten.
That's basically what Esther now also tells them to do.
Und das ist, was Esther jetzt sagt, im Grunde, was sie tun soll.
Forward this quote here shortly. Let's read now this next quote.
Ich habe ein Zitat in der Livestream gepostet. Lass uns das jetzt lesen.
Because she said, okay, go, gather everybody together, and then we will fast and pray 3 days and 3 nights, right?
Aber sie sagt, geht und sammle alle zusammen und wir werden fasten 3 Tage, 3 Nächte.
Okay. Everybody there?
Jeder da?
It says, the crisis that Esther faced demanded quick, earnest action. But both she and Mordecai realized that unless God should work mightily in their behalf, their own efforts would be unavailing. So Esther took time for communion with God, the source of her strength. So what did she take?
So was nahmen sie?
Time. Okay.
Zeit genommen.
Go, she directed Mordecai, gather together all the Jews that are present in Shushan and fast ye for me, and neither eat nor drink 3 days, night or day, and so on and so forth. Okay, so here we can see then she also asked for time,
So
right?
hier können wir sehen, dass auch sie für Zeit gebeten hat.
And then 3 days later,
Und dann 3 Tage später,
she would appear before the king,
sie
right?
wird vor dem König erscheinen.
So she basically follows only the pattern of Daniel here in the first Sunday,
So
right?
sie folgt letztendlich dem Muster von Daniel hier im ersten Sonntagsgesetz.
In Luther, okay?
Und auch die Muster von Luther.
So ask time for time, and then they appear before the king, right?
Bittet um Zeit und dann kommt vor dem König.
Okay. Now let us go back to Esther chapter 5.
Gehen wir zu Esther Kapitel 5.
It says, verse 1 and 2.
Die Versen 1 und 2.
It says, Now it came to pass on the 3rd day that Esther put on her royal apparel and stood in the inner court of the king's house, over against the king's house. And the king sat upon his royal throne in the royal house, over against the gate of the house. And it was so, when the king saw Esther, the queen, standing in the court, that she obtained favor in his sight. And the king held out to Esther the golden scepter that was in his hand. So Esther drew near and touched the top of the scepter. Okay, so we can see here on the third day, she puts on this royal apparel.
Also wir können sehen, am dritten Tag zieht sie diese königlichen Gewänden an.
And then she appears before the king.
Dann erscheint sie vor dem König.
And the king pardons her.
Und der König begnadigt sie.
Okay, so these verses, Brother Mark and myself, we looked at those, and I don't know, we have some difference of opinion, whether it's the end of the investigative judgment or whether it's the final review. Okay.
Bruder Mark und ich haben diesen Versen angeschaut und sind uns nicht ganz einig, ob das nun das Ende von der finalen Untersuchung oder das Ende von Untersuchungsgericht ist.
Not me, he's pardoning her. He can't pardon you in the final review. That's the point.
Yes,
You're
but
pardoned in the investigative judgment.
So,
The third day.
der Punkt ist, du wirst begnadigt im Untersuchungsgericht am dritten Tag,
John
nicht in
2,
finale Untersuchung.
John 2 verse, I think it's John 2 verse 1.
In Johannes 2 und Vers 1.
John 2 verse 1.
Same, begins exactly the same as Esther.
Es fängt genauso an wie Esther.
And the third day there was a marriage in Canaan.
Zum dritten Tag eine Hochzeit zu Kana.
Okay, and this is when he fills them with the Spirit.
Das ist hier, wo er sie mit seinem Geist erfüllt.
So that's what it's saying there, right? In Esther. Now it came to pass on the third day that Esther put on a royal apparel.
Das ist auch in,
Same point.
also das Füllen des Heiligen Geistes, das ist dasselbe wie in Esther, wo sie diese königlichen Gewänden anzieht.
The royal apparel is the wedding garment.
Die königliche Gewände ist gleich der Hochzeitsgewand.
I'm glad you agree with that, right? Because you have to, because here there's the wedding garment, here it says a marriage, and that's where he fills you with the Spirit. You have to be filled with the Spirit before Christ comes.
So, hier ist der Hochzeitsgewand, wo er dich mit den Heiligen Geist erfüllt, zu einer Hochzeit eingeladen. Und du musst eben gefüllt werden mit dem Heiligen Geist noch bevor er komme.
So that's it. So that it's the investigative judgment. It can't be the
So, deswegen es muss
executive judgment.
der Untersuchungsgericht sein und nicht das ausführende Gericht.
if
Das
we
ist die finale
go,
Untersuchung
right, if we
wäre.
go to Daniel chapter 1,
So, wenn wir jetzt zu Daniel Kapitel 1 gehen,
verse 14 to 16.
die Verse 14 bis 16.
It says, So he consented to them in this matter and proved them 10 days. And at the end of 10 days their countenances appeared fairer and fatter in flesh than all the children which did eat the portion of the king's meat. Thus Melchizedek took away the portion of the meat and the wine that they should drink and gave them poles.
It's investigative judgment.
Yes, okay, so
Untersuchungsgericht.
the 10 days would be in here, right?
Die 10 Tage werden dann hier drin sein.
And at the end, now the filthy garments is taken away.
Am Ende werden die schmutzigen Gewände entfernt.
Okay, so that would be Zechariah chapter 3. So keep your finger in Daniel.
Hatte den Platz in Daniel, das wäre Zechariah Kapitel 3, gehen wir dahin.
Zechariah 3 verses 3 to 4.
Zechariah 3, die Verse 3 und 4.
It says, Now Joshua was clothed with filthy garments and stood before the angel. And he answered and spake unto those that stood before him, saying, Take away the filthy garments from him. And unto him he said, Behold, I have caused thine iniquity to pass from thee, and I will clothe thee with change of raiment.
Yes, pardon them right there.
So when the filthy garments is taken away and the new garment is given,
Wenn die schmutzigen Gewänder entfernt werden, das neue Gewand gegeben wird,
this is basically when the investigative judgment is now accomplished.
das ist hier, wo der Untersuchungsgericht abgeschlossen
Yeah, but
ist.
that's not what I'm saying. Here, I caused an iniquity to pass on thee. That's when he pardons you.
Yeah, that's when he gives you the new garment, right?
Verursacht, dass deine
You're changing the words.
Übertretung von dir entfernt wird.
I'm not arguing that point. The garment's there, but I'm saying I have caused an iniquity to pass for thee. That's when he pardons you.
So, das ist hier, wo er dich begnadigt.
So
Okay.
that's the end of the investigative judgment, and that's the same as what he does when he holds out the golden scepter. He pardons someone.
But Esther has the garments on
It
before
doesn't
he
doesn't
puts.
matter.
No, it matters. Because she has the garments on, and this is when she was pardoned, and now with the garments on, she appears before the king.
So he's pardoned her twice.
That's the final review.
No, I don't think so.
No, Christ just does the same as it. Because he also, this is why it says in the final review, he also says again, he that is unjust, let him be unjust still. And so he basically acknowledges what is written in the books, also in the final review.
Oh, well, I'm not arguing that point, but when you and I had this discussion, you were talking about this whole point here.
No, I was
We-
talking
we-
about verse 1 and 2.
Okay, that's what I'm saying to you, right? So, verse 1, right? On the third day, Esther put on her royal apparel. This is where we were going, this is the very point, was that this is the investigative judgment.
Yeah, so there she gets taken away the filthy garments, and the new garments are given her. And then with the garments, the new garments, she appears before the king. That's the wedding garment, she appears.
Okay. I'm
Before
not,
Christ.
I'm not arguing that point. I can possibly agree with you now, but when you and I had this conversation, we were speaking about verse 1. Not arguing about this point now.
Oh, I thought we were speaking about 1 and 2, but I don't know.
Well, all I'm
If we
saying is
agree
one-
with this,
one-
then that's fine.
If you're making that point, okay, then I will look at it, but what I'm saying is that verse 1 is definitely the investigative judgment. Okay, so if we
Sure.
agree on that, then there's no problem.
Okay, no problem. So, alright, so therefore, 3 days, filthy garments get taken away.
So,
Right.
3 Tage werden die schmutzigen Gewänder entfernt.
She gets the kingly garment.
Sie
Right?
erhält diese königlichen Gewänder.
That would be at the end of the investigative judgment.
Das wäre am Ende des Untersuchungsgerichts.
That's the same as when we go back to Daniel chapter 1.
Es ist dasselbe, wie als wenn wir zurück zu Daniel 1 gehen.
Daniel 1, verse 16.
Daniel 1 und Vers 16.
Because there it says, Thus Melzer took away the portion of their meat and the wine that they should drink and gave them pulse. Right? So what did he do?
So was tat er?
Took away the filthy garments,
Nahm die schmutzigen Gewänder weg
and therefore what did he give him?
und deswegen was gab er ihm?
The wedding garment, right?
Das Hochzeitsgewand,
The kingly garment.
der königlichen Gewand.
And then, now verse 18.
Und jetzt Vers 18.
Now at the end of the days that the king had said he should bring them in, then the prince of the eunuchs brought them in before Nebuchadnezzar. Right? So therefore, with what kind of garment did he appear before Nebuchadnezzar?
So deswegen mit was für eine Gewand erschien er vor Nebukadnezar?
Yeah, with a wedding garment. Right?
Hochzeitsgewand.
Yeah, Joseph also had a change of raiment and then he appeared before the king. Right?
Josef hatte einen Wechsel an Gewänder und dann erschien er vor dem König.
And also at the end of the time in Daniel chapter 2,
Und am Ende der Zeit, in Daniel 2,
when he appeared before the king, Nebuchadnezzar,
als er hier excuse me, vor dem König erschien, also vor Nebukadnezar,
this was also the final review, right?
und das war auch die finale Untersuchung.
Okay, good. So, therefore we have all these illustrations that you appear before Christ when you have on the wedding garment, right?
Deswegen haben wir all diese Darstellungen, dass du vor Christus erscheinst, wenn du die Hochzeitsgewand anhast.
I'm just reading this quote here, I mean, I still don't think you're right about that point. I think it's just maybe the way you're looking at it, that clearly says there that when she touches the scepter, she finds grace, right, and mercy. You've already obtained those things in the investigative judgment. So, and she says she says about coming to Christ, because that's when she came to him, right? She says, you're not to wait to claim those promises, right? It says, because they were wavering. And she says, those who are waiting to make themselves more worthy of divine favour before they venture to claim the promises of God were making a fatal mistake. Okay, Jesus alone cleanses from sin.
I mean, she quotes this preacher, right, that made this analogy, but I don't know if he just used the principle, but you see in the prophetic pattern, it's when you have on the wedding garment, then you appear before Christ.
No,
Right?
she nothing to do with that. She's not about her quoting that. She just quote the preacher, but then everything after that is what she says about it. You can look at it.
I looked at this today. Yeah. So, but I mean, you have all the evidences from the Bible that once your garment is changed, then you appear before the King. Christ looks at your wedding garment at the final review and all these things, right? So, the talents. And he also then physically shows you favor. He says, "Well done, the good and faithful servant."
Sister White also says that the final review is no test at all for those, because you've already been pardoned.
Yeah, I mean, it's no test in the sense, I mean, Daniel still had to appear before the king and was tested, right? In Daniel chapter 1. So, it's not a test in the sense that you can fail. In this way, it's not a test, I would say. Okay, anyways, we can also talk about it still later. Okay, now let us go back to Esther, chapter 5.
Zurück zu Esther Kapitel 5.
So, right here, so Esther now appears before the king, right?
Esther erscheint hier vor dem König.
And, I mean, the end of the investigative judgment and the beginning of the final review is just same waymark anyways, right?
Das Ende von Untersuchungsgericht und das Anfang von finaler Untersuchung ist derselbe Wegmarke.
So, it doesn't really make a great difference at the moment, okay?
Im Moment macht das keinen großen Unterschied.
Okay. Eventually, when you come to other stories, it would make a difference, but
Wenn wir zu anderen Geschichten kommen werden, das wäre wohl einen Unterschied machen.
but now to place it here on the line, it doesn't make any great difference.
Aber
Okay.
hier ist auf die Linie zu markieren, macht das keinen großen Unterschied.
Okay, so, but now let us continue. Esther chapter 5.
Lasst uns jetzt weitermachen. Esther 5
Then verse 3.
und Vers 3.
It says, Then said the king unto her, What wilt thou, Queen Esther? And what is thy request? It shall be even given thee to the half of the kingdom. Okay, so what is he offering?
So, was bietete an?
Half of the kingdom.
Hälfte des
Okay.
Königreichs.
So, yeah, keep your finger here. Let us first go to Revelation chapter 3.
Haltet den Platz hier, gehen wir zur ersten Offenbarung, Kapitel 3.
And then verse 21.
Und Vers 21.
It says, To him that overcometh will I grant to sit with me in the throne. To him that overcometh will I grant to sit with me in my throne, even as I also overcame and am set down with my Father in his throne. So what is the promise to the overcomers?
Was ist die Verheißung für die Überwinder?
Share the throne with Christ,
Den
right?
Thron mit Christus zu teilen.
So in history you also had sometimes this co-rulership, right?
Und in der Geschichte gab es diese Co-Regentschaft. Co-Regentschaft.
You had, for instance, Darius and Cyrus, right?
Zum Beispiel es gab Darius und Kyros.
So in the sense, when you share the throne, you get half of the kingdom. Okay.
In dem Sinne, wenn du den Thron teilst, dann hast du die Hälfte des Königreichs.
And you're in which position?
Und du bist in welcher Position,
When you're the co-regent.
wenn du den Co-Regent Herrschafter bist.
You're the second in the kingdom,
Du bist
right?
Zweiter im Königreich.
So it always shows you the second place because you will always share the throne with Christ. Okay.
Es zeigt dir immer diesen zweiten Platz, weil du immer den Thron mit Christus teilen wirst.
Okay. But there's also a counterfeit to it. Yes?
Aber es gibt auch eine Fälschung dazu.
So let us go to Mark chapter 6.
Gehen wir zu Markus Kapitel 6.
Let us begin in verse 21.
Fangen wir in Vers 21 an.
21 to 23.
21 bis 23.
It says, And when a convenient day was come, that Herod on his birthday made a supper to his lords, high captains and chief estates of Galilee. So what day was it?
So, welcher Tag war das?
Herod's birthday. Yes.
Herodes Geburtstag.
And this morning, right, we studied.
Heute Morgen haben wir studiert.
What is this waymark?
Was war diese Wegmarke?
Pharaoh's birthday.
Pharaos
Right?
Geburtstag.
Okay. So Pharaoh is Herod. Okay.
Pharao ist gleich Herodes.
So now verse 22.
Vers 22.
And this is why it says they were drinking wine there. Okay.
Und White sagte, dass sie da Wein getrunken haben.
And then it says, And when the daughter of the said Herodias came in and danced and pleased Herod, and them that sat with him, the king said unto the damsel, Ask of me whatsoever thou wilt, and I will give it thee. And he sware unto her, Whatsoever thou shalt ask of me, I will give it thee unto the half of my kingdom. Right? So here this false woman is offered the half the kingdom, right?
Hier diese falsche Frau wird die Hälfte des Königreiches
And
angeboten.
who is this damsel?
Und wer ist diese Mädchen, diese Frau?
The Protestants, right?
Die Protestanten.
So, and she now goes to verse 24.
Geht mir jetzt zu Vers 24.
It says, And she went forth and said unto her mother, who's her mother?
Wer ist ihre Mutter?
Papacy, right?
Papsttum.
What shall I ask? And she said, The head of John the Baptist. So what is the mother saying?
Was sagt die Mutter?
Yeah.
Tötet sie.
What she says in Spalding again 2.1, right?
Das, was hier in SPM 2.1 sagt.
The Protestants come to the Catholic and say, okay, what shall we do? And they say, put them to death, right?
Protestanten kommen zum Katholiken und bitten, was sie tun sollen. Und sie sagen, tötet sie.
Okay, so there we can see always the wicked, yeah, they first get the chance, the promise offered, basically. Okay.
So, wir können sehen, dass die Bösen immer the chance, the what, sorry?
No, they first get the chance or the promise offered.
Ah.
The promise offered.
Also sie erhalten den Chance oder die Verheißung angeboten.
But it's a counterfeit promise,
Das
right?
ist eine Fälschung der Verheißung.
And God's people always get it when they overcome. At
Und
the
Gottes
end. Okay.
Volk erhält das immer, wenn sie überwinden am Ende.
Okay. So now let us go back to Esther chapter 5.
So, gehen wir zurück zu Esther Kapitel 5.
And let us continue in verse 4.
Lesen wir weiter in Vers 4.
And Esther answered, If it seem good unto the king, let the king and Haman come this day unto the banquet that I have prepared for him. So what is she asking?
So, wonach bittet sie?
The king and Haman would come to her banquet,
Dass
right?
der König und Haman zu ihrem Fest kommen wird.
This day.
An diesem Tag.
Verse 5 and 6.
Vers 5 und 6.
Then the king said, Cause Haman to make haste, and that he may do as Esther hath said. So the king and Haman came to the banquet that Esther had prepared. And the king said unto Esther, The banquet of wine. So what kind of banquet is it?
So, was für ein Fest ist es?
Banquet of wine.
Fest des Weines.
What is thy petition, and it shall be granted thee? And what is thy request? Even to the half of the kingdom it shall be performed. So here he repeats it.
So,
Okay.
hier wiederholt er das.
Okay, so but I want to mark here, right here, when she appeared before the king now, she asked, come to the banquet, right?
Ich möchte aber hier markieren, wenn sie vor den König kommt, sie bittet, dass sie zu dem Fest kommen würden.
It was a banquet of wine.
Das war ein Fest des Weines.
And this is what we want to look at then tomorrow.
Und das ist, was wir denn morgen anschauen wollen.
Okay, so Haman and the king are now together with Esther here at the banquet of wine.
So, Haman und der König sind zusammen hier mit Esther bei dem Bankett des Weines.
Good wine or bad wine?
Ist das gutes oder schlechtes Wein?
This is good wine.
Gutes
Okay.
Wein.
So here Herod was drinking bad wine. Now some good wine is on the menu.
Am Anfang trunk Herodes schlechtes Wein und jetzt ist gutes Wein auf der Speisekarte.
Okay, good. So everybody could follow.
Konnte jeder folgen.
Yes?
Yes.
So here Mordecai was humbling himself greatly, right?
Hier Mordecai hat sich auf große Weise gedemütigt
And also Esther.
und auch Esther.
She asked for time.
Sie
Right?
bat um Zeit,
3 days.
3 Tage.
And at the end of the time, her sins got basically taken care of and she got a new apparel, right?
Und am Ende der Zeit sind ihre Sünden behandelt worden und sie erhielte neuen Gewände.
And then with this new apparel, she appeared before the king.
Diese neue Gewände ist sie vor dem König erschienen.
And the king accepted her
Der König nahm sie an
and offered her half of the kingdom.
und bot sie der Hälfte der Königreichs an.
And she asked, I prepared a banquet of wine, come this day with Haman, right?
Und sie bat darum, dass sie ein Fest vorbereitet hat, dass der König mit Haman da erscheinen soll.
And then they were sitting here together at the banquet of wine.
Und dann saßen sie hier zusammen bei dem Fest des Weines.
Okay, so and tomorrow we will continue from this point forward.
Und morgen werden wir von diesem Punkt fortsetzen.
Yes, amen?
Amen.
Okay, good. Then I would say we can close for tonight.
Ich glaube, dass wir für heute Schluss machen.